Dear friends, welcome to InQuest, in-depth analysis and to the point. In this video, let us discuss about editorials of the newspapers, and this is the first video of this particular series for the month of September 2021. And this activity is useful for your UPSC mains in general studies and also for essay writing, KPSC and other state public service commission examinations, and any other competitive examination wherein essay writing is one of your components. Dear friends, the content that we would be discussing here will be given in the form of PDF down in the description box. You may also download the same after watching the video. Before getting into the depth analysis of the articles, let us see the index of today's discussion. So we have taken two issues. One is related to the state of Uttarakhand, other is related to the state of Karnataka. So the first issue is with respect to state of Uttarakhand, because Uttarakhand state has been proposing for the development of new hydroelectric projects. This we see in relation to environmental and ecological constraints. And for the very first time in the state of Karnataka at Nandi Hills, we have witnessed landsliding. This also we will see in relation to environmental issues. Now let us come to the first article. See, first article, as I told you before, it is the tussle between ecological conservation and infrastructure development. Here, the author says both should go hand in hand for the development of hilly states, because we know that Uttarakhand is a hilly state. So let us analyze the article for better understanding. So before getting into the deep information about the same, so let us find out the gist of this article. So as I told you before, Uttarakhand has been proposing for the development of hydroelectric projects, but the problem is the projects or the new plan of Uttarakhand government has been raising so many environmental issues, because recently the Uttarakhand witnessed a lot of disasters like landslides, avalanches, and cloud bursts as well. And thus that led to the loss of lives and property. Now let us analyze the entire issue in detail. So before getting into the information, let us see the relevance of this with respect to your examination. So first of all, it is very important for your essay writing. And if you look at the syllabus copy, GS1 and GS3, you can see the highlighted part here, critical geographical features. So this is what we are supposed to be. I mean, we are supposed to discuss it here, and in flora and fauna and the effects of such changes. So in GS3, you have something like conservation, environmental pollution, degradation, environmental impact assessment. So any new project that is going to be taken care of should undergo environmental impact assessment. So this article is useful for discussion on these issues and disaster management. So if you look at the questions that came in previous year's question papers in UPSC Civil Services mains 2019 GS3, there was a question like question number 8: vulnerability is an essential element for defining disaster impacts and its threat to the people. So vulnerability in the sense the sensitive areas and its impacts like disaster and threat to the people. So same thing that we would be discussing here. How and in what ways can vulnerability to disaster be characterized? Discuss different types of vulnerability with reference to disasters. So this article would be useful for you to discuss such questions in the examination in future. And there was one more question in 2020 GS3 UPSC Civil Services mains. Discuss the recent measures initiated in disaster management by the Government of India, departing from the earlier reactive approach. So here we can also talk about the initiatives of government. So what government says about such projects, and while discussing such questions in the examination, you may use the information that we would be discussing here now. So now let's come to the core points of the article. The need of infrastructure development in the Himalayan region rubs up against the environmental and ecological challenges that they pose. So as I told you, infrastructure development that we are speaking with respect to the development of new hydroelectric projects. And this is raising questions with respect to environmental and ecological challenges. Now, why this is so, or what is the importance of hydroelectric projects for the state of Uttarakhand? Because the Uttarakhand government has for decades envisaged hydroelectric projects as the way forward to power the state, premised on the region's undulated topography. So the dependency of power of this particular state is actually sourced from hydroelectric projects for so many decades now. And these projects are premised on the region's undulated topography, undulated in the sense the uneven surface which is not very strong enough and it is vulnerable or sensitive land masses. However, the rising frequency of intense rains recently has been contributing to landslips, avalanches, and loss of lives and properties. So we have been witnessing a lot of intense rains recently, and that in turn causing a lot of disasters like landslips, avalanches, loss of lives and properties. Now, what is the main reason for this? The main reason is the development of hydroelectric projects being situated in terrain which is very prone to environmental shock. So the land mass I told you in the state of Uttarakhand is prone to environmental shocks. So that is the reason why we have been witnessing such disasters in the state. So now the new proposal of development of hydroelectric projects, so once again raising the questions on these environmental issues. So to give witness to this, so the damage caused by such projects, so we can get back to 2003, wherein we saw Kedarnath floods in 2013. After this particular incident, the Supreme Court ordered a halt to hydro projects in two rivers. One is Alakananda and other one is Bhagirathi river basins, pending a review on whether they exacerbate the damage. So it is pending for review to check the damage that it would cause if the project is going to be completed. So this is the order by Supreme Court to halt this particular project that is related to Alkananda and Bhagirathi. And not just this, this is also going to impact one more ambitious project of India, that is the future of hydro projects is closely linked to the National Mission for Clean Ganga program. Now let us understand how hydroelectric projects at Alkananda and Bhagirathi is related to National Mission for Clean Ganga with the help of the map. So this is where we have Indian map, and this is somewhere here we have Uttarakhand state. Now I mentioned two rivers, one is Alkananda, other one is Bhagirathi. So Bhagirathi flows in this direction, like the red line that I have been drawing here, and the other river, that is Alkananda, flows from in this direction. Both the rivers confluence together at Dev Prayag, and further it flows in the form of Ganga river. And the cleanliness of Ganga river depends upon how easily it flows. But there is a problem with respect to these projects, because the health of river, for the health of river, it must be allowed to flow unimpeded, and hydro projects are an obstacle. So to make sure that the Ganga river is maintained clean, the river water should flow without any interruption. But the development of these hydroelectric projects will be seen as an obstacle for this particular success of the program. So that is the reason why these power projects are also in relation to the future, I mean the other missions of India, like National Mission for Clean Ganga program as well. So that is not all. Recently we witnessed one more disaster, the avalanche in Chamoli this February. This is in relation to, dated back to 2021, very recently, February, that destroyed two power projects. So you can see the projects itself got destroyed and killed at least 200 people, was only the latest reminder of the fraught risk. So this reminds us, such projects would be fatal in future as well. And what is the stake of center with respect to this particular change? So the union government or the center has been saying that it is not too keen on new hydroelectric projects. So center is not for new hydroelectric projects, and is only permitting those that are at least 50% complete to go ahead, given the sunk costs in the sense the cost that has already incurred for the development of, or establishing such power, hydroelectric projects. So any project that is at least underway and completed at least to an extent of 50%, only those projects shall be allowed to complete according to union government. So any project that is less than 50% of its completion, central government is not for those kind of hydroelectric projects. But Uttarakhand, like all other states, is not immune from the demands for reliable power and infrastructure from its people. So we may think that Uttarakhand, since it is a hilly state, we might think that the demand for power and population is scantily placed. So the demand for power might be less, but it is no less than any other state that we see across the country. And the demand of people with respect to reliable power and infrastructure from its people is as good as any other state. Along with better dialogue, power companies and the center must inspire greater trust in the residents of the region. Infrastructure development will have to necessarily account for the region's constraints. So the limitations I told you, the undulated topography is that we see in the state of Uttarakhand. So the infrastructure development will have to necessarily account for the region's limitations. So they'll have to see the limitations of the place before coming up with such infrastructure development. But before that, to gain the trust factor, there should be dialogue between power companies, and the center must inspire greater trust in the residents of this particular region. So that completes the article number 1. So where we have seen both are important. So generation of electricity is also important. At the same time, the environment is also important. So the project should balance both environment and also generation of power. So with respect to this, let us go to article number 2. So this article, as I told you, in relation to landsliding for the first time in Nandi Hills. So the recent landslide in Nandi Hills of Karnataka. So let us see the causes and ecological impacts of this landslide. Before that, let us see the relevance of this particular article. So of course, this is useful for your essay writing and GS1, GS2 of the same, like how we saw the first article. So it is significant in the same areas that I discussed in the previous article. Now let us see what is this issue is all about in detail. So the recent landslide on Bangalore's popular tourist spot Nandi Hills should be a warning call to the government, which has permitted stone quarrying and crushing activities in the vicinity, ignoring protests from the environmentalists. So why this is happening here? Because of excessive stone quarrying and crushing activities, even though environmentalists are ignoring, or environmentalists are protesting against the same or alarming against the such activities. So rampant quarrying and deforestation have destabilized the soil. So this is the impact of this. So whenever there is rapid quarrying and deforestation, there will be destabilization of soil that leads to the landsliding disasters. Unless this is stopped, there could be a threat to other hillocks as well, leading to a catastrophe similar to one that we saw in Kodagu a few years ago. So such disaster, even to a bigger scale, that happened in Kodagu because of uninterrupted activities, which is not supposed to be done at these particular areas. Now let us see what happened in Kodagu. So in Kodagu, hundreds of acres of coffee estates were buried under the mud, with many losing their lives, but the government has done nothing to check the unbridled flow of tourists who far exceed the district's carrying capacity. So unbridled in the sense unlimited flow of tourists, that is beyond the carrying capacity of the district, and the government has done nothing to stop such entry of people to these places, and that caused acres of coffee estates that buried under mud, and many people lost their lives. And authorities have also failed to put brakes on construction activities. So this is one more problem. The construction activities that are going on at this place that destroy the natural contour of the landscape, beside loosening the soil. So when the soil loses its grips, grip, automatically we see landslides in these areas. So this is again one of the reasons, that is construction activity, and that spoils the natural counter, and that leads to lands, what do you say, landslips. Unless the administration takes some corrective steps, Nandi Hills, which faces the onslaught of excessive tourism, uncontrolled developmental activities, may meet the same fate. So this is what is the the warning that is given by the environmentalists. So if such activities are not stopped at this level, so we may witness similar kind of disaster that happened in Kodagu, in near future, is what been said by the environmentalists. So the hills, which is popular destination given its proximity to Bengaluru, attracts thousands of tourists. Now, what these tourists are doing is the question here. Many of the tourists have scant respect in the sense nil or no respect for their surroundings, and litter the entire area, living around, so look at this number, living around 30 tons of trash, mainly plastic and liquor bottles, on its precincts every year. So precincts in the sense, at that area, they leave a lot of litter that amounts to 30 tons of trash, mainly plastic and liquor, every year. So this is what is the problem created by the tourists. The hills are believed to be origin of 6 rivers. So look at here. So it was believed to be origin of 6 rivers, but now what is the fate of this? So 6 rivers including Arkavati. But today the hilltop and foothills face an acute shortage of drinking water. So look at here, 6, it was believed to be origin for 6 rivers, and now we are witnessing shortage of drinking water as most water sources have dried up due to rapid urbanization and have become polluted. So due to rapid urbanization and pollution, so there is acute shortage of drinking water at this hill station. So environmentalists have suggested that all encroachment should be cleared. So in order to come out of this problem, so environmentalists have a suggestion that all encroachment should be cleared, lakes should be revived, and flow channels should be cleaned up. So as they litter this area with plastic, this actually clogs or blocks the flow channels. So this has to be cleaned up to make sure that it gets back to its natural beauty. So while there is nothing wrong in promoting sustainable tourism, it is not just tourism. So you need to promote sustainable tourism where it doesn't harm the environment. The government should at the same time maintain the ecological balance and protect the character of hills as a historical and heritage center. Now, this is about the issue, and the environmentalists say that the government should encourage sustainable tourism, and the tourists must behave and they should respect the nature, and they should not litter the place like how it has been done so far. And this is all important for your essay writing or mains answer writing. Now let us get back to the history. This information could be useful for your preliminary examination. So Nandi Hill is a home to fortress built by Ganga dynasty. So the dynasty that could be related to Nandi Hills is Ganga dynasty, and was later strengthened by Tipu Sultan. Considered impregnable, it means unattackable, the fort was stormed by Lord Cornwallis in the year 1791 during the first of 3 wars against Tipu, a significant development in the history. Now let us see the complete details of this in the historical perspective in more details. So Nandi Hills is in the Chikbalapur districts of Karnataka state. The hills are origin of Arkavati River, Ponnayar River, Palar River, Papagni, and Penna River. The first ever SAARC summit hosted by India was held at Nandi Hills in the year 1986. Local Hindu temple, including hilltop Yoganandeshwara temple guarded by a huge statue of bull, you can see at the place of Nandi Hills. And the hill has the elevation of around 1478 meters, and the biodiversity, the vegetation of the hills is typically of high hills. Inside the fort at the summit, many of the large trees are planted, exotic such as eucalyptus, and the undergrowth consists of Coffea arabica along with some native species. So this is about today's two articles. So if you have any questions to ask, you may put in comments box. So we will try to reply to your questions. Thanks for watching. Namaskara.